Good morning, and you're welcome to Searching the Art this morning. I am excited today because of the news I heard just yesterday. Of course, most of us space enthusiasts must be talking so much about what just happened, and we know that the SLS on the mission to go around the moon was postponed a month. We know this was supposed to be way back in 2024, yes, and kept on being postponed, and now it's postponed just a month again. Now the problem with this postponement is, of course, is the nature of the technology that is being used. This technology is just an improvement on the technology that was used during the first moon mission, and it's very sensitive technology. Okay, you can't play with it. Anything goes wrong, I mean, you'll be toying with the lives of people as well as billions in equipment. And so, of course, this is why it has been postponed, I'm sure. But this also raises the question as to the reliability of some of this technology. Okay, and that is why I believe that somebody like Elon had to come out and say, okay, he has kind of given up to let NASA have their way. Okay, he's going to now concentrate on going to the moon. Yes, in the same light, helping with what NASA has been doing, because you see the funding of NASA is very small. His Twitter feed kind of emphasized this just yesterday also. It's very small, okay, and with the turbulent political environment, of course, you know that the budget is always going to be tampered with and all that, and so this is going to keep on pushing the mission back and back. And this is the problem with politics, okay. That is why the technology that has been used to do this thing has not really changed much, okay, since the 1960s. There are a lot of improvements, of course, okay, and some of the improvements after the shuttle was a great improvement, but now we're dealing with, okay, an improvement on the shuttle. Is it really an improvement? Well, it's still a debate, okay, and of course Starship is moving a bit ahead, but my own criticism has always been that I don't see these as mainly improvements, because you end up using chemical propellants. Okay, chemical propellants are not bad, but their nature is just simply that they are over dependent on the rocket equation. Okay, they over depend. Chemical propellants have the knack of depending so much on the rocket equation, and of course volume is very important, you know, because their efficiency can only follow a predetermined pattern. Okay, of course nuclear technology can also be considered as a chemical propellant, but it is one chemical propellant that can really has been discovered to have output in the geometric proportions, okay, and not like other normal chemical propellants. So I believe that the nuclear technology may be the savior of the space race going forward, as many of our engineers have already pointed out. So many of them that you can look up. Of course, Scott Manley does not say he's an engineer per se, but he knows a lot about that. The everyday astronaut, yes. Also, Tim Dodd does a lot on rocket engines. Curious Droid, very important. I can't forget Curious Droid. Yeah, he does so much on that, on not just rocket technology, on airplanes, you know, and all that. And we have so many others, okay. Mars Direct, okay, the founder of Mars Direct, he has talked a lot about that. So these are sort of people that know so much about these things, and Marcus House, who again, so many of them, okay, and their work has been so important in really delving deep into these things, okay. Of course, let me not forget Justin of Matter Every Day, you know, and he talked a lot about what NASA have been doing right or wrong, okay, in that light. And I believe that these are the issues that are really at stake. But what I want to look at today is a question. And my question is, are we really ready? Okay, forget the hype. Oh, Elon created a lot of hype, you know, that within this decade we might go to Mars, the US specifically, and the hype is kind of dying down. And what is the reason for that? I believe that we haven't asked the real question. And what is the real question? The real question is about humanity. Is humanity really ready? And this is what I want to be tackling today after this short break. Okay, so is humanity really ready for is humanity really ready for what we want to do? Going to the moon, going to Mars. Well, when you talk about it, looking at what happened in 1960, you see the speed at which, one thing that is fascinating about human development is the speed at which humans got to a particular point and just started innovating towards something. And the reason is simple. The reason is that from inception, human beings have always looked up to the stars. Most of innovation is based on the ability of human beings to look up. Okay, that is why this popular saying, keep on looking up. Okay, and this started as far back as the flood. While disputed by so many scientists, it's not too important whether something, of course, like I said on my Twitter feed or X feed, the fact that people are disputing whether the Americans actually landed on the moon today, just about a few decades after, you know, should show you that whether people dispute the flood or not, you know, it's not an issue, you know, right now, you know, because human beings are that way, okay? They move very fast, and once something has outlived its usefulness, they begin to just throw it away. This is human nature, and we'll be talking more about that, okay? So, human beings were forced into innovation. The flood was one of those events that caused such innovation. And it took another thousands of years for human beings to move beyond that technology called the shipping technology, to begin to, you know, experiment on other things, because that is their nature, okay? They are limited to certain ways, behavioral modes, okay? And such behavioral modes make them to innovate in particular directions. And when they get there, they use that innovation for their needs, okay? Basically eating, you know, whatever controls human society at that time. You know, so this is what it is all about, okay? And so it is actually fascinating how they got to that point that they got to in 1969, where, of course, the landing on the moon was made possible, okay? And of course, you know the role that the Second World War played in that. It was a natural development, okay? We were always looking up. We were curious what is up. And of course, when we had solved our most primary problem, which is our disagreements between ourselves, we looked up again. And simple, okay? And this is the very reason why we are still caught in that time loop, as it were. 1969, 1957 through to 1969, okay? We are caught in that time loop. We don't know where else to go, because of course our needs were met. We felt we had conquered a particular hurdle. Although getting to the moon, we didn't see what we wanted to see. That is life, of course. And so we were wondering, what next? Okay, because we are made in that particular way, okay? If something doesn't suit our sensibilities on our own survival, we throw it away. It's just simple. So this is what is happening, and of course that takes us to the next question, okay? Does that mean, what does this mean for us? Does it mean that we should completely throw away the idea of space, or that it is necessary for us? We'll discuss this after this break. Okay, right. What is the next step in human development? Because we are wired this way and we tend to do away with things we don't really need, can we surpass this problem? And the issue is coming to light even in the time we are in right now, and that was my fear as Elon Musk took over the kind of the push towards space. Of course, we had the founder of Mars Direct being the pioneer of that idea, okay, using, of course, chemical propulsion, having that idea of how we can go to Mars from here, from Earth. Elon kind of took over that same idea, and with his own unique touch to it, the Starship, of course. And he has been very successful at it, but he has not yet landed on the moon. And my fear is that same idea, the fear of purpose. Once you lose purpose, the whole thing dies down. And that was what happened, seemed to be happening, and my concern for Elon when he dived head on into the political scene trying to help Donald Trump. And the fear was always, will he lose purpose? Okay? Because most of us humans look for power, and once we get power we kind of relax. Edison, it was said that Edison went through the same thing. I think that was said on was it Great SpaceX or one of those channels, I'm not sure, okay? Edison went through the same problem, okay? And it was feared that when Elon also achieved political power, he would forget about his plans to go to Mars, and because purpose was what was driving him on, okay? And many human beings, when we take on lofty goals, we don't do it because we really believe in those goals. No, sometimes it's just personal ambition. Of course, an age also determines that. The older we get, the more we lose the steam to pursue certain goals. And so this is the issue, okay? This is the issue. And I believe that the purpose of space itself, okay, is in fixing human economy, okay? Many space enthusiasts have already said that, look, I think Curious Droid, Scott Manley also mentioned this very clearly, okay, that look, a lot of the technology that we use today, from our smartphones to our computers, to so much that we use weather devices, all were based on the innovations that took us to the moon, okay? So this is just the problem, okay? Once we get a use for what we have discovered, we bask in that, okay? And so this now defines the purpose of space, of looking up. We look up to fix problems here on Earth. It's just simple. And it's the same thing. Refer to my video on what about Buzz Aldrin, okay? Science and the Bible. What about Buzz Aldrin? I mean Buzz Lightyear, okay? The idea in that cartoon in Buzz Lightyear is the very idea that Buzz Aldrin keeps on talking about, okay? The light year, the principle of the light year. The problem that stopped us, the Americans, from going back to the moon sustainably after the shuttle program, before the shuttle program, was simply that there was no funding for it. Tim Dodd also just did a video on that. I just saw that on Twitter this morning, okay? is funding the economy, okay? But when you look at that my video I did about 2-3 years ago, what I kept on saying is that, look, space is that frontier that will fix the economy of Earth. But the politicians are not interested in it for some reason, okay? I don't know why. My last video was on why is space so contentious. And just about, when you look at the figures that have been given, it's just about 2% or so of the national budget, of the American budget, okay? And this has been the issue. This is the issue Aldrin struggled with. How could they innovate in such a way that they can use this little allocation more effectively, okay? And this is what has hampered the exploration program throughout the years, okay? And so the problem is that, I mean, the allocation is too little because politicians don't see the need for spending so much on such a project. And once you are able to educate them to see that actually this is a solution and not a problem, they will be able to spend more. And that, I think that is the challenge, convincing them that this is so, okay? I remember some years back in Nigeria, when the government decided to spend about 4% of the budget on education, it was like, wow, they are spending too much. Okay, they are spending so much. Okay, that was the first year they decided to spend so much. And so if you find even in critical sectors like education, it is so difficult for politicians to get to the point to say, okay, we need to spend this much. You see, this is a problem that affects every other sector, okay? So, like I said in that podcast, okay, what about Buzz Lightyear? Okay, the issue is understanding that space is a solution and not a problem, okay? And when you build your economy knowing this and putting the important things at the basis of your program, what is the foundation of the economy? The land, the mineral resources, okay? Space should be part of that, okay? But if you don't recognize this, of course there's no beating those challenges, okay? They want to keep on dodging space, and you know, they talk about crypto, they talk about going back to fossil fuels, they talk about the internet, they talk about so many things because they just want to dodge that idea that we just have to keep on looking up to fix Earth. But it is just true, because from time immemorial, from very inception of human civilization, that is what has pushed us forward. Okay, we kept on looking up, and when we kept on looking up, we were able to solve human problems. And so anytime we are in that time loop right now, that when we lack purpose, you know, we tend to you know, just not know where else to go to. And this is what keeps on delaying the space race. And this is the answer to our question, okay? Are we really ready? The only reason why we have not progressed beyond that time loop in between 1957 and 1980 or 1990 is because we are not ready, okay? We are not ready psychologically, we are not ready physically, because we've not moved into that next step, okay? Sometimes we wait for crisis to push us. That is human nature, okay? We wait for crisis to push us to get to that level, okay? This is some of the crises, the world economic crises. This is what pushed the world to accept people like Elon, okay, to now repursue the Mars Direct program in another way, okay? We were pushed to allow people like that, and Elon got us to that level. If anything happens and Elon gets comfortable, definitely you know that that thing will go down the drain again, okay? Because human beings are not ready. We are not ready. Whatever we innovate for is just to fill our bellies. It's just to have a good life here on Earth, okay? Immediately that is achieved, we forget all that, okay? But the point that we are in right now is to discover that space is the solution to the problems of the world. We'll discuss more about this after this. So I want to briefly look at some of the developments in the space industry, of course, which still control whatever is being done in that industry right now. And some of those things start from the discovery and use of hypergolic fuels and propellants. Very little innovation, and so a success is quickly achieved. And in hypergolic fuels or propulsion systems, that was achieved. Of course, the use of hydrogen as a fuel, very, very important. But the problem with that is that it is very delicate. Okay, it's very, very. It can easily malfunction, and then you have a problem on your hands, and that is what is currently facing most of the innovation in chemical propellants. Okay, hydrogen, while being one of the most efficient, is very, very difficult to handle. Okay, and of course the same thing can be said for nuclear. Okay, while having the greatest output, is very difficult also to handle. But nuclear, has the most potential as it is right now. My problem personally with chemical fuels, like I've said, is that they depend too much on the rocket equation. Okay, and nuclear is the only one that can really drastically surpass that. And if we are not able to actually innovate sustainably in that sector, that may not be possible. Okay, and of course the other aspect is communication in space. Of course, we see what is happening with the Starlink program. Okay, to actually speed up the rate at which we send messages to the moon and back, or Mars and back, within space itself and on Earth too. Okay, and of course there are issues with that technology. I'm not going to go into that, but generally, when you look at all the technologies we use today, they are technologies that have just improved just a little on what we had, in 1969. Okay, so this is the problem, and if we are not able to make these things sustainable and something that we can just easily do without wasting resources, without being afraid for the lives of the astronauts or peace on Earth, it may not be sustainable. Okay, so this is what is at stake right now. Okay, and so I want to quickly round up with this video by going to hit the nail on the head, and this is where I am concerned. I'll be talking about the theological themes of what it means for us to be ready. We always want to dodge these issues, and the reason we want to dodge them is because that is our greatest weak point. Okay, our greatest weak point is that we are not morally empowered, okay, to actually do this. Okay, and like I've said, why are politicians always dodging the space problem? Okay, one of the reasons is it costs so much. Okay, although they hardly spend up to 2% of the budget, but it costs so much. I know in Nigeria here we've been having this problem of the amount of money that is put in the educational sector, and you find that at a point when you put about 4% of the budget in education, it's like, whoa, you spend so much. But it is necessary. Okay, and just 4%, but it's like you spend so much. So the moral aptitude and the moral commitment to put money in the relevant sectors, but you have to first agree that these sectors are relevant, and this is what I just discussed in the previous segment. Okay, that actually when you look at it, it is space that has provided for the technology that is running the earth today, but the politicians will never admit it. Okay, that is just simple. The leaders of the world will never admit it. Okay, because there are certain moral problems. Okay, So this is the issue. So we have to solve these moral problems before we are able to move to the next step. And this is where the theological themes come. Science itself already is disputing the existence of God. And when you dispute that, of course, you know you are limited in the moral aspect, okay? And so you are limited now to pursuing philosophical and scientific statistics to be able to solve moral problems. And it's not just about having the statistics, is having the wherewithal to solve the problem. You can discover a problem, but can you solve it? The discipline of psychiatry, employs the use of drugs, to control mood. But how far can you push that? How ethical is that in itself? So these are the issues. So at a point we are forced to return to God. And this is the purpose of this program, okay? All these questions have been answered in the Bible. And I started by talking about the flood, okay? And the flood and the use of a physical machine like the shipping technology to save human beings from the flood. And we see again that in Matthew 24 and Acts 1 verse 6, Jesus Christ had already shown us clearly that what he was talking about was not really what the people understood. And we have that problem with human beings, okay? Especially in Acts chapter 1 verse 6, okay? It is clearly said when they asked him, "When, O Lord, when will you restore the kingdom to the Jews?" And he said, "No, those dates are not known. Only the Father determines those dates." And the reason, when you look through the Gospels, this was not the first time he was saying this, especially also in Matthew 24, that even his disciples did not really fully understand his purpose, okay? Because they didn't really understand his purpose. Of course, there's a saying that says abuse is inevitable, okay? And they have struggled with this throughout. Most of them thought he was going to return in the very decade they were in, or in the very century they were in. But he had clearly said, no one knows the time nor the date, okay? And that was only his Father, not even himself, who could determine the date which he will return, okay? So the problem with human beings understanding the purpose, our purpose, is very, very clear. And it's already in the Bible. It's already there in the Bible, okay? And so the real threat, in my view, after looking at all these things, like I have said in previous podcasts, is the ability of human beings to work together to reach a consensus on moral issues, on the very definition of human beings, humanity itself, okay? And to reach a consensus on what the solutions of human problems are. Yes, I've already mentioned one. We need to continuously look up. From the beginning, human beings always looked up, and that is where they found the solutions. Whether they were looking up to God or looking and in the process maybe found technological solutions. That is what the Bible always tells us. That as they looked up to God, they found technological solutions to their problems. Sometimes spiritual solutions, but many times also technological solutions to their problems. Okay? In the process of trying to worship God in the wilderness, the Israelites had to build a physical structure. Okay? And those physical structures mimicked the process, administrative structures they were able to replicate here on earth. And that was the solution to their problems. The ark, the same thing. Okay? So this is what we see. And this is the issue. Okay? I tell you the truth, we are not going to space. If we don't go to Mars, we don't go to the moon, back to the moon, it's not because we lack the know-how. Like I saw also on the Twitter feed, somebody said that on my Twitter feed just some hours ago. But the technology has existed since the 1960s. But the problem is we lack the moral aptitude. And when we solve the issue of human cooperation, human beings living with one another in peace, I'm telling you, we will go far beyond the moon. I am David Dungi Chinke for you today in Searching the Heart. And for those of you who have been subscribing to this channel, this is an opportunity for me to say thank you. You have been a blessing to me and to the work I'm doing. And I believe that you have seized the opportunity to go onto the website and to subscribe to some of the books that we have there listed. You can also continue to do that. There is a new book that is out for your enjoyment. For those of you who want to really understand the foundation of what I'm talking about. I talk about so many topics, but this new book will open your eyes to this reality. It is titled Foundations of Conceptuality. Go there, go to the website to buy your copy. Recommend this to your friends, and buy as many copies as possible and give it to your friends. This is very important. That will give you a very firm foundation in understanding the world itself, understanding your own purpose as a human being, and understanding the very existence of God and the existence of the universe. I believe that you will enjoy it. God bless you as you do this. Links are in the description.